Council of State, can you do a minute, beginning with you, because you have been in Parliament and these issues have come up over and again. Senior Samokujeto has said that they don't really need any extra powers and that their powers are there. If they activate them properly, they'll be able to ensure that things are done rightly. President Kufuor has a different view. President Rawlings also has a different view. He says that if you elevate them into a second chamber, it will be a lot of bureaucracy. You don't need that.
Well, I think that I'm inclined to agree with Mr. Rawlings and Mr. Kujeto. If you go into the Constitution, it's clear what the Council of State has been set up to do. And also within those powers, the Constitution gives them the ways in to contribute to all these things. If you go to 91.3, it's there. If you go to 91, I think 94 and all that, they have a right. They have the right that if there is anything going in Parliament, they have a right to, send a memoranda to get involved in it. The Constitution tells them where they can be consulted and what they can do. The idea of the Council of State is to give the president a global picture to enable him to take a decision as the chief executive officer of the state. And that is what has been envisaged by the Constitution.
The Supreme Court says their advice is not binding.
Yes, but that is what it is. And that is why the Constitution carefully selects who constitutes the Council of State. What I would want to see changed about the Council of State basically is the way the elected ones, the way they are elected. Because you can't have a region like the Volta region with how many population of close to 1 million, and then 25 people go and elect a representative of the Council of State. I think that it's unfair to everybody.
Okay.
And so those are the things. But once you get onto the council,
right, you
are carefully selected, you have rich experience, you have ability to give government the global picture.
They have gone far with the process to have 6 more regions. Can we afford it? Is it necessary?
Well, it's a catch-22 situation because the Constitution, I mean, we would need to do, for me, I think that we should even have a public discourse on it because the people have petitioned according to the Constitution.
Yeah, the process will go through.
Yes. So let's see. We must have tangible justifications for them as we go along. And let's see.
Doc, what do you say about seeking more powers to be able to bite and also whether or not 6 more regions we can afford it?
First of all, I think there's something I think we can give to the former President Kufuor in terms of being consistent about his position. But I'm not convinced about that. I don't think that the second chamber.
He says that Parliament rushes through almost everything. If you create this second one, they will check them.
but the Constitution also, I believe, and an honourable can correct me, that there are certain provisions regarding laws that Parliament is mandatory to consult. Council of State, So, and then again, I think at 93 or so gives powers to Council of State. I don't think we need a second chamber. I don't think this country requires a second chamber. In fact, if you study countries that have second chamber, there are certain conditions that allow for that. Ghana, I'm not too sure fits into that. But I think that there's still a problem with the Council of State. The selection process, and I'll go beyond just the elective one, even the appointed ones. So if you end up having a selection process where the Council of State virtually becomes an extension of the party in power, and then it is only when the advice from the Council of State fits into that of the presidency or the government that we get to know, then there's a problem with that. And so I think the nature of the composition and with support from Council of Supreme Court.
In 15 seconds, can we afford 6 more regions? Do we need them?
Well, I think that we have lost in these countries. It's been triggered. Let us go through. If we end up voting for it, then the country will have to find a way to deal with that.
Okay, thank you. Clara, what do you say briefly?
Briefly, I would say that, in fact, one, I don't agree that we should give the Council of State more powers. I think what we have is okay. But I'm actually interested in whether actually we need it at this stage of our democracy. Having listened to the 2 presidents, I have no doubt that we needed it in '92. We needed it because it wasn't really because the presidents lack people to give them advice and all of that. They have cabinet, they have their, I am sure that if there's a conflict, I am not very sure that if there's a conflict of of a conflict between the advice of the Council of State and then the advice from cabinet and the advice from party elders, the president is likely to heed Council of State. So I don't think there was a lack of advisors, but there was some sense of legitimacy because we are used to having elders, a Council of Elders, and we are used to, so the Council of State brought with it a certain legitimacy in our democracy, and a certain calm in the event of entrenched partisan positions. And it could also be a mediator. So in the teething stages of our democracy, we needed the Council of State, and it has played its role. What I think as a nation we should interrogate is, our democracy is maturing. Do we need it now? And to be able to determine whether we need it now, we need a lot more transparency in the activities of the Council of State.
Thank you
we
very
need
much.
more accountability so that we are able to make a decision.
Let's give the last 30 seconds to Pius. Yes.
Well, the sense that I get is that something definitely has to happen to our Council of State.
Okay.
We either need to give them more powers or look at their existence and decide. Because people are not too impressed with the output of the Council of State. We have a situation where we have had the Council of State advising the president to grant amnesty to people who were incarcerated legally, the Muntie 3, for instance. And their relevance has been called into question. And so we have to think about the issue and consider what we should do with our Council of State. If we want to empower the Council of State so that they can actually do what they ought to be doing, let's do that. Otherwise, then we may have to consider.
Thank you very much. Pius Enam Hadizie is the Deputy Minister of Youth and Sports. George Lowe is a lawyer and former MP, not die. Dr. Franklin Odro is Head of Research and Programs and Deputy Director at CDD. And Clara Barry Cassati is also a lawyer and teaches the law at Gimpa. I'm Samson Ladi, and my outfit, as always, is by Latida. Have a good afternoon.